When we were young, we read more often because we had to. It was the only way for us to get knowledge and to be enlightened. Read to your heart's delight and be enlightened. Let's just read. It's a podcast by Andy's Personal Development. Stay tuned for more reading and enlightenment. Hi, and welcome to Let's Just Read, the podcast by Andy's Personal Development. And for this episode, it is entitled Eight Scientific Elements of Wisdom with Dr. Laura Gabayan. And she's live here with us in the studio. So I'm just going to give you a brief introduction and then we'll invite her to join us on screen. She is a world renowned, highly published physician researcher who scientifically defined wisdom in her book, Common Wisdom. She interviewed 60 wise individuals ages 50 to 79 years across North America and arrived at the eight elements of wisdom. Her book is fascinating, insightful, and concise. So, without further ado, let's welcome live on Let's Just Read Dr. Laura Gabayan.
Thank you for
Hello.
having me. Hi.
Thank you for joining us. It's so good to have you, and it's a pleasure to have someone of your ilk, I should say, with regards to the research that you have done. So, we're going to talk about the fascinating aspects of eight scientific elements of wisdom. Could you briefly introduce yourself to our audience and, in a nutshell, tell us a little bit about yourself?
Sure, I am a physician. I'm a physician researcher, and I was an emergency physician. I'm highly published, and research has always been what I've been interested in. But I decided to apply my knowledge of research to figuring out wisdom. So, no, I don't know a lot about wisdom, but I wanted to figure it out.
Okay, great. Thank you for sharing. How did you arrive at the final title for the publication?
It's interesting. So when you approach a topic, you either have an idea or a hypothesis, or you totally have no idea. And so I had no idea, and I interviewed 60 common individuals and found the common thread between them. So I applied a type of research to find this common thread. And that's why I came up with the name Common Wisdom, because it was common what they said.
Okay, great, wonderful. So, how long did this research actually take for you?
So I think I know in the mid like 2013, 14, I developed my own health challenges, and I noticed that physicians, which I am one, don't really think outside the box. They kind of don't. It's all what they were taught. And I was like, well, who does? And it was the wise. And then I looked into wisdom and I'm like, wait, there's no real concrete knowledge of what wisdom is. And so I decided to study it myself. And that's why I did the research. I started reading about it and what it was done during COVID, and then I interviewed the people for the project starting in 2022.
Okay. And what challenges did you face in terms of reaching these people and getting them to support the research that you are doing?
Well,
Did you receive? They were very willing.
Yeah, they were, and they were honored, and they were
Ah,
very honored, as anyone would be, for someone to call them wise. And the
right.
people who called them wise were random. Oh yeah, I went to college with that person. Oh yeah, that's someone I knew, or it wasn't necessarily a friend or a family member. It was just someone they had an idea of, and so they're willing to do it because they're honored to be called wise. And they were also very attuned. I use an internet platform, and they were used to that because we had COVID. So it worked out.
Any famous names among the people that you did the research with?
No, no famous names. And you know what? I really like that because first of all, I didn't choose them, and secondly, that's what I liked. They were people who we would consider as common people, not
Ah,
famous, not different, but people amongst us.
yes. Okay, great, wonderful. So, when you did your research, which one of the eight primary elements of wisdom surprised you the most?
So, as someone asked me, "Oh, did you have an idea?" I'm like, "No. When you do research, you have no idea what you're gonna find." And so, I think the one that surprised me the most was kindness. That was
Ah,
my second one, and let me tell you what they are in order: resilience, kindness, positivity, spirituality, humility, tolerance, creativity, and curiosity. And
mm,
kindness surprised me most because I'm from the Middle East, and
okay.
kindness was never something I was taught. It
Uh
was
huh.
not something that was respected. It was viewed that if you were kind, you're not smart, and you're a pushover, and you're not strong. And so strength was not associated with kindness. But the more I think about it, I feel like if you are strong, if you are confident, then you are kind.
Yes, yes, yes. That makes sense. I love it. Thank you so much for sharing. So, in terms of the combination of the eight scientific elements of wisdom, how would you describe the effect that the book has had on the people who have read it thus far? What is the feedback that you are getting?
Well, the feedback is it's changed their life, and
Ah,
that it's made them think of things differently. And
right.
first of all, it's a very to the point book because I'm
Hmm.
a scientist and I've
Hmm.
written or published papers in academia. You know, I'm
Yeah.
not a novelist. I don't write a paragraph. It's just to the point. If I want to say something, I'll say it in a few words.
Right.
And so it's very to the point. And so the people who read it have been like, wow, it's changed the way I see things and I have my whole life. And so I feel like that was the goal. The goal is also for you to realize that wisdom is not an end goal. You know,
Hmm.
you can look at it and say, okay, it's these eight elements. I'm good at one thing and I'm not good at the other, and I'm going to make this one more important in my life. And just realize that it takes time, and the idea is now I've broken it down for you.
Okay. And you have broken it down quite well indeed. When you compare the things that you have learned with what your life represents, do you see any of these values showing up for you daily?
I mean, I definitely have made kindness more of a focus because it was something I found. And I realized my husband is very kind. And the way he talks to the kids, the way he is very kind. I've also noticed that, well, one thing I've been noticed is they're all related, they're all
Hmm.
connected, and
Yes.
it's also made me think of being positive. I am a positive person, but how important it is, and how the first element was resilience. I feel like to be resilient, you have to be positive. So
Right.
the two go hand in hand.
Yeah. Wonderful. And I believe, Laura, that so many people now, depending on how you look at it, but at least from a holistic perspective, need to understand how important it is to be resilient because, life on the whole appears to be sometimes much more tougher than we probably anticipated it to be. And
I think
therefore, you need to be able to just bounce back. What are your thoughts?
I was really taken aback as to how a majority of the people I spoke with had encountered some horrible life event,
Ah,
and resilience was a big one for them. And I think in order to be resilient, you do have to kind of have more experiences, and that
yes.
the literature has found. So in order to do any type of research, you have to learn about what was out there before.
Hmm.
And it has found that the people who are wisest are age 50s, 60s, 70s, as inversely relationship with age. And that's why the people we interviewed were age 50 to 79 because of that.
Yeah, that is true.
So
So,
so someone
mhm.
in their 20s will have a hard time building resilience because they haven't
Ah,
gone through enough life.
wow. I understand that. It's a wise concept in itself. Certainly makes a lot of sense. So, in terms of the value of the eight core aspects of wisdom, how do you rate spirituality?
I think with spirituality is the idea that something bigger exists. And I was not a very spiritual person to begin with.
Hmm.
And I was raised thinking, well, raised, I mean, in medical school too, and also I was raised both, that if you can't see it, it's not there.
Okay.
And with spirituality, the idea is if you can't see it, it may be there. It's still there. It doesn't matter
Mm,
if they can't see it.
yes.
Seeing is just something the physical is involved in, not in the metaphysical. And so spirituality, and then also spirituality is the idea of spiritual surrender. And I, for one, had a really hard time understanding that because I was thought, oh, surrender means to give up. But I think it's more of you do everything as you want to, but know that there you have to step aside and there's a bigger spiritual world focused on helping you.
Yeah. I love that. Thank you so much. So, I want to look at it from the fact that you appear to be quite fascinated by your own research. And I will read what I discovered. It said the findings of the project are fascinating. Wisdom is a state of being, a mindset. From a librarian that lives in the smallest home in a neighborhood to a CEO of many companies, I discovered that there were several commonalities in the approach to life, which I analyze and discuss in the various chapters. It was clear from my research that having wisdom is not related to accomplishments or wealth. It is a passion and love of life that results in meaning and depth. The findings of this project are priceless and timeless. I found that myself to be really fascinating, but what I get out of it more than anything else is that wisdom is a virtue that is available for everybody, and
Yes.
it does not have a biased intent or a biased nature. It just depends on how you decide to accept it, embrace it, and use it in your life. Comment on that a bit.
Someone asked me once, is the goal of life to attain wisdom, or is it important to have wisdom to go through life? And I think the idea is what you're saying is also it's something that you can attain in pieces. You can be like,
Hmm.
I'm good at this, I'm not good at that, and that you can attain in pieces. And when you do live a more meaningful life. And it has nothing to do with how much money you have, with how much, with any of those superficial things. And the wisdom is like a code word for meaning, having meaning and being kind of fulfilled in your life. That's what it is. Because I didn't know what wisdom meant. I didn't know what it was. And it's certainly these days with social media and the internet, it's not a very sexy word.
Yeah, yeah, indeed, indeed. So, if you had the opportunity to speak words of wisdom to the younger generation, because we discovered that resilience is something that may be hard to come by for them, but it's one of the key elements.
The first
What,
one.
yes, what would you actually say to them that would help them to understand how they can grasp the meaning of wisdom?
You know, it's funny because of the 10 questions we asked the people, one of them was how they would, what advice they would give to the younger generation. And the advice in general, I mean, when
Yeah.
we think of the younger generation, we think that people who may use emotions more so, and they're in whatever they do, and their focus is more on the superficial. So my words of wisdom from these people is don't focus on the superficial. It'll be okay. And whatever you're going through is there to help you. It's there for you and not it's not happening to you. So it's okay. That's my
Yeah.
word. That's what they said.
Okay, wonderful. In terms of the future and going forward, do you see yourself doing a follow up to this present publication?
You know, it's funny because someone, right when the book came out, someone asked me, "Oh, have you thought about your next book?" And I'm like, "No, you know, writing books is not something I'm planning on doing. It's right now. It was figuring this out and telling the world about it. And being an author is not something I want to do. So it's not that." And my husband was like, "Why are you saying that?" I'm like, "No, I could care less to sell books. I want people to read this because it'll change their life." And so I'm not here to sell books, but I'm here to impact people's lives.
Wow, wonderful. And I think that's really a virtuous desire that you have. Thank you for sharing.
Of course.
Are you involved in any mentoring programs coming out of the publication?
No, I think I'm first of all, like any type of promotion of this book right now is a lot of work.
Yeah.
So no, I'm not mentoring anyone right now because I'm busy promoting this book. So
Okay.
it's a lot of work. And that's something we didn't learn. I didn't learn to be a marketer, but I have to be. Because
Right.
my goal is not to to make the money, but it's more to get the people to read the book.
Right. I understand. So, with regards to the publication itself, do you have the opportunity to do any book talks with a live audience? And if so, how was the experience?
I have no, I mean, the book just came out and I
Mm-hmm.
have not had an opportunity. I mean, potentially in the future, but not right now. Right now, I think I'm focusing on doing podcasts and talking to people about it and explaining what I found. So, no, I'm not doing like big talks right now.
Okay. So, I'm just going to share something on the screen. And it's fascinating that this is what the publication actually looked like. And I applaud you if you did some of the work here for the fact that we see a book here and this could be considered as an iPad and this a cell phone. But what prompted you? to agree that this would be the final look of the publication?
You know, it's funny because the idea of a light bulb came to me with, and then someone else was like, "Why not a light bulb with the brain?" And someone else said, "Why not a light bulb with the brain, and some stars?" So that's where it came from, and that's so. And I thought about it, I'm like, wisdom is more of like how you think and how you perceive the world. So that's where the brain comes in. And light bulb is more of like you see the light. It's kind of like, oh, it's like the aha moment. So and then I feel like the way you kind of focus more on is if you have a dark background. We looked at this actually with the blue background, and it looked much better with black.
Ah, yep,
So
yep,
it
it
was like a
does.
navy blue background, but we looked much better with black.
Yeah, it
So
kind of
that
stands out more with black. Yeah, it does.
it does.
Yes. Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful indeed. So, Dr. Laura, when you think about the mantras that you live by with regards to wisdom, for you personally, which one resonates with you the most and why?
Well, there was something I asked one of the interviewees about, was there a mantra they live by? And what they have said is something I feel like has been a big part of my life since I've talked to her. And it was the idea of being fiercely flexible. So not just flexible, but realizing that it's kind of really important to make it a big part of your life.
Yeah, indeed. So I just gonna show us this comment here by Anthony Maruri. He's a colleague of mine's. He says a light bulb moment. It's an ironic statement, but I guess it sort of aligns itself with the cover of your book, your publication. Thank you very much for that comment, my friend. We appreciate that. We appreciate you. So as we move along, Dr. Laura, gratitude has been found to be associated with wisdom. How do you see gratitude playing a collective role with regards to the aspects of wisdom from a mindset perspective?
So that was a question I did ask the interviewees. And as I
Uh-huh.
said, to arrive at the eight, we initially came up with a lot of different, traits, themes, and we had over 20, and then we collapsed them. And gratitude was one that was part of positivity. So the positivity chapter talks about gratitude a lot. And the perception I got from the people talking about it was it really, regardless of how hard this situation is that you're in, it helps you get through it. And I remember I talked to a minister once, and he's like, it really helps you get to the other side. And that's a way to think about it. Look, it's not easy wherever you encounter. And life is not easy. But when you're grateful for the smallest things, when you notice the smallest things, then it makes it easier.
Yeah, indeed it does. I fully agree. I concur with you. So I'm looking at tolerance. And to be honest with you, I think it is an empathetical quality that seems to be very lacking in the world today. How would
I
you
think,
encourage people based on the tenets of the book to more embrace tolerance?
it's funny because I feel like people view tolerance as what typical view is. Okay, I have religious tolerance or I have racial tolerance. That's it. That's enough. And I'm like, no, there's way more. It's the idea that be open to anything you hear, be open to ideas from other people. And you're right, we are lacking that these days. And I feel like people are way more stuck. And a part of me wonders if that perception of being stuck and on one point is because of the internet. I mean, you say you're interested in X, they're going to give you more of that. So a part of it is also, I feel like the environment we're in makes it worse.
Yeah, and
So,
we
but
have to be
it's
very,
not
yeah.
just one
Uh-huh.
form of tolerance. It's kind of being open to everything. Not saying, oh, he's this. I'm not going to talk to him because he's that. Just being open to learning about everything and not judging.
Well, I think also the next one after that, which is humility, that sort of helps one to understand how they can be more tolerant. Because if we are not considering other person's opinion, we don't want to hear what they're saying because we believe that our opinion is it, or we feel that we are right. And sometimes some people feel that because they are right, they are righteous. But humility requires a certain level of intelligence as well.
Yeah,
How can we
but
encourage? Yeah. How can we
I
encourage
talk
people to observe that more, that level of intelligence
I
with
talk about
humility?
I talk about humility in my humility chapter, and the idea is, does it make you feel big to make someone else feel small? And humility, someone,
Wow.
I could, there was a magazine that talked about how humility is a secret sauce to being a good leader. And it really is. I feel like, as you said, it helps you connect with people. So humility, of all the chapters I've written, humility is my favorite one.
Oh, okay. Good, good, good. So as we continue going down the line, creativity.
That was,
Now,
yeah, yeah, that was
yes,
the seventh element.
right. What is the basic aspect of wisdom as it is aligned to creativity?
I think both creativity and curiosity. The idea is we all have it. And we, as kids, remember, we were all very creative. We would make things and we thought of things that were creative. And yet, slowly, life takes away from you. So it's not just the painter or the artist that is creative. We all have it. And being set in your ways and being a creature of habit actually prevents you from being creative. So I feel like it's something we need more in our lives. It's also something that makes someone feel, I mean, there are people who think that creativity is the foundation of using your whole brain, of using your right and your left and having both. So I think creativity is a lot more important than we think.
Wow. Yeah, that's interesting. And we certainly need to have more creative ways in which we can be humble and which we can find a way to increase our level of acceptability for each other in the world today. In terms of the aspect of the eight scientific elements of wisdom, is it really scientific based, or is it that the tenets upon which it is based comes from a scientific background?
I think it's just, look, I think it's scientific based in that to evaluate all of that, to come up with the eight. Science was a big part of it. And so I had to learn about, I applied the way any research is done to this. And so I learned about what was done beforehand, how wisdom was identified. And then I spoke with my own. And then as I said, we started with a bunch of elements, more than 20 trays, and came down to the eight. So the words, resilience or spirituality, or those are not scientific words, but the ideas, the concepts, the way they were derived are. And
Oh.
it's funny
Mhm.
because someone's like, wait, did you have a mentor that taught you about this? I'm like, there, if you know anything about wisdom, it's very woo woo, and science is not. So, no, there's no one that combines the two. It's not common.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I understand that. It is really pleasant having this conversation with you because I'm looking at the very aspect of how we can not just embrace wisdom, but how diverse wisdom is. And as I said before, it has no bias, it is available universally for everyone.
It's
In your day
available.
to day, yes, go
Yeah, sure.
ahead.
Go ahead. Sorry.
I'm saying in your day to day life, how much do you think you have to input that level of wisdom so that you can deal with your challenges, not just on a personal basis, but in terms of the way you interact with people when you meet them in a social settings?
I think this goes back to the question of, do we use wisdom to apply to our lives, or is our life the goal of life to attain wisdom? And so I think I first of all, as I said, I feel like all of these elements are connected, and I have noticed more so. Oh, that's being positive, or oh, that's being more spiritual, or oh, that's being kind. So I've definitely in my head kind of differentiated them, but overall, I've made it more of an effort to be part of my life.
Yeah, wonderful. So I'm just going to share a video here and I want you to sort of do some color commentary on it. So here we go.
Everybody has something to teach you and deserves respect. And everyone has to have a life and they have something to say. By being curious about them, it's being kind. When you read my book, you'll see that a lot of these elements do overlap. And so in a way, it's also being tolerant. It's realizing that, wait a second, I appreciate this person. They have this perspective because of who they are. And if I was closed minded, I would not have gotten that from them.
All right. So two things I get there. One, the elements, they overrun each other one way or the other. And secondly, we need to get away from the idea of being closed minded. Otherwise, wisdom would not become something that we are aware of. Your comments.
I think the idea behind all of this, and that's what, I mean, it goes back to being humble and tolerant, in that nobody knows more than someone else. Nobody has more money than someone else. Oh yeah, temporarily, but it's gonna change. Nobody is more than to anyone else. You need to respect every single human. So, as someone who was religious said, we're all God's children. And I think the idea is we're all humans and we deserve respect, regardless of where we came from, what it is, we deserve to be listened to. And by closing them off, saying, oh, this person's that and this, that's only going to impact you, because you are closing your brain and your thoughts and your tolerance and your perspective, because you will learn something from everyone.
Yeah, I love that. It's so instructive. So, Dr. Laura, in terms of leadership, and I'm looking at leadership holistically all over with regards to whether it's in your personal life, company, politically, religiously, how important are the elements that you have written about in this book to someone who is adopting or even ongoing in a position of leadership? and they need to be more enlightened.
I feel like leaders, they set a standard. They are role models for a lot of other people. And they also, in addition to being role models, they connect. They need to connect with people. So at the foundation of being a leader should be having wisdom, having a sense of humility, having a sense of tolerance, having a sense of resilience, knowing whatever company they're a leader of is going to go up and down. You know, looking at everything in a positive light, being kind to people. So, applying all those 8 elements in a leadership position is really important. And you know what? Being spiritual, knowing that some things work out and are meant to be.
Yep, absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you for sharing, Dr. Laura. In terms of what we see happening in the world today, we have so many things taking place. We have wars and rumors of wars, and we have some economies that are struggling. And it seems as though day to day, people are kind of losing their way, losing hope. The vision of the future is kind of blurry and uncertain. What aspect of your publication do you think truly relates to the kind of wisdom that we need in the world today, just to help the common man, the everyday individual?
Well, it's funny because someone else said, I feel like there's not really much focus on wisdom these days.
Uh huh.
And it's really, as I said in my book, it's taken a backseat. It's not important. And the reality is it has. But what I assured him was have faith, don't live in fear, things will work out. And we do, but it may be at a big price, but they will work out. And the price, look, we're just looking at our youth. They're depressed, they're lonely,
Yeah.
it's a and then the internet is just a big disaster out there.
Yeah. Yeah.
And if you think about all of the problems, you're gonna get nervous yourself. So I think you have to have faith, and you have to kind of be open and have faith. That's all you can do.
Yeah. Yeah. That is right. And I want to look at this from an educational perspective. When we look at the curriculum of many schools worldwide, the basic subjects turn up: maths, English, if that is on the curriculum as an option for language, geography, and the sciences, and so on. But there's nothing with regards to empowering the mind and the ability of the person to think, and to how should we summarize our thoughts. And I think that the elements that you have outlined in your publication addresses that in some manner. Would you like to see wisdom being on somebody's curriculum?
I would love it. And it's funny because I don't think it would be ever. It's funny because one of my interviewees was like, how can we get this in schools? How
Yeah.
can we mandate the kids read this book? I think it's important for all kids to get. I'm like, I don't know. I mean, maybe the scientific perspective would help them. But as we know, wisdom is such a non tangible outcome, and it's not something a lot of people pursue, and it's not popular per se. But yes, I mean, it's something that people would learn from like an old grandfather or something, and things that they may not learn in school. So
Yeah.
I'm not so sure we can have them overlap, or we can have a lesson that I would love it, but I'm not so sure it would happen.
Wow. So we have been listening to Dr. Laura Gabayan as she speaks about her book, Eight Scientific Elements of Wisdom, an intriguing and very informative and enlightened publication. And we're going to take a quick commercial break and be right back with you. FindRadioGuest.com, the place to click to find guests to interview for free. And if you're a radio show booker, podcaster, talk show host, or television producer, then this is the place to get podcasts and radio interviews or promote your books and products as a guest expert sponsor. FindRadioGuest.com. Check it out. Okay, so we are back with Dr. Laura Gabayan, and we appreciate any comments or questions that you have in the audience. Please share with us, let us know. We can respond. We will respond because we appreciate that interaction and that intercommunication among our audience and our people here. We just have about a few minutes to go again, just about 3.5 minutes. Dr. Laura, if you had a statement to impart to the world with regards to the adoption of wisdom as a lifestyle, how would you phrase it? What would you say to the universe?
To have more meaning in the life you pursue, find joy in the small things, and be more perceptive of the things you see, because all of this will help you be the person you are.
Wonderful. I love it. Thank you for sharing. How can people purchase the book?
So it's on Amazon, and there are 4 different ways of reading it. There's the soft cover, the hardcover, the ebook, and the audiobook. And I've as someone, I'll repeat that it's called Common Wisdom because these were common individuals. They were not famous. They were not celebrities. I didn't choose them, and they were common, and they had things in common. So commonality was a big one. And so I feel like, in life, you seldom get such an unbiased, objective perspective, such an important topic. I mean, most books are one person's perspective, right? Um, so I think it's really worth it to have something like this. It's like a mentor.
Yeah. So I'm going to put up on the screen some information, and I want you to tell the audience which is the most effective one they can make contact with you should they need to reach out to you with regards to more information, with regards to the research you have done and the importance of it as we seek to apply wisdom to our lives today.
I think it's a website, my website, lauragabayan.com. The very first one you have up there. And that helps talk about me and helps talk about what I found and helps talk about the book. So I think it's really all of them.
All right, wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. So, in the last minute that we have, there is something that I found very intriguing in that you appear to be very patient in terms of not only patient but meticulous in terms of the people that you would have researched and collected all the elements of the information. I recognize also the very scientific aspect of wisdom with regards to the numbers, the research, and that alignment with things that are linear with regards to statistics. And most of the time, statistics really don't probably show the real picture, but they tell us some aspect of the picture. How much did you rely on, if any at all, the aspect of AI in terms of the research that you did? Did it help in any way at all? No, it was
No.
strictly
And so
hands
it's
on.
funny because I know AI is very involved in life these days, but this is not my writing, not the book, nothing. And I feel like it has not been a part of it for many reasons, but mostly I think because I really in terms of the book, I mean, it's to the point and it's my thoughts, and also it's I remember the interviews. So it's also the interview, like each chapter has many examples. And so AI did not help me at all.
Okay. All right. So thank you so much. You have been a very engaging and informative guest.
Of course.
And we will appreciate, of course, yes, your continued work with regards to what you have developed so far, that sense of awareness for the elements of wisdom. So we thank our guest, Dr. Laura Gabayan, for her work and her input
Thank
on
you for
this
having
program. Let's just read. Thank you. We appreciate you. And for those who have made comments, we thank you and we appreciate your support in the audience. We have 2 likes up there for you, Dr. Laura. So until next time, please remember, continue to seek information through enlightenment by reading. And go on Amazon and look up the 8 scientific elements of wisdom with or by Dr. Laura Gabayan and purchase the book. There are different forms in which you can get it in, and you can get some information about wisdom. So until then, this is Andy, along with my guest, Dr. Laura Gabayan, saying so long, Godspeed, God bless. Bye for now, guys.
me.
Take care.
Bye.